they do also reproduce sexually. When the food supply goes down, then they do start to reproduce sexually. I'm not. I presume I don't know what their eggs are like, whether they just produce. I can't remember if they just produce small larvae or whether the eggs can overwinter. I'm not quite sure. Another prediction it makes is that aging is roughly correlates to the level of predation that a species encounters. If a species is heavily predated, then it means that a single organism has a very small chance. It has like an exponential half-life. So after a few half-lives, it's very unlikely that an organism will still be around. It's likely to have been eaten. So therefore, at that point, evolution would have given up trying to produce an organism that will survive that long. Whereas an organism that isn't predated at all might live a very long time, and then aging will kill it. So then evolution starts to slow down the aging process. And that is what we find. In fact, this is one of the things that Orsted talks about. He looked at opossums, and you get some opossums that are stranded on islands and have been for several thousand years. And what he finds, what you have there is you have fewer predators. Some islands don't possess some predators. So the opossums there live longer. And over the years, and they're still part of the same species, so they can still interbreed with the ones on the mainland. It's just they don't do it very often, obviously. What Orsted found is that they actually age more slowly. Just a separation of some 1,000 years. The opossums they looked at aged about half as slowly as the ones on the mainland. And that is what disposal of soma would predict. In a low predation or stable environment, then you get the opposite effect. The animals live very long, they don't reproduce as quickly because they don't need to anymore. So bowhead whales are an example. In fact, all whales are an example. Bowhead whales just live the longest. Once a whale gets beyond a certain size, basically nothing can kill it. Same with elephants. Once an elephant's grown up, it's got no natural predators. Although, of course, the only risk of it being killed by is by humans. Galapagos tortoises, same applies. And then there's bats and birds. Now, any flying animal has a very low risk of being predated. I mean, there are some birds that eat birds, but generally speaking, being able to fly is a great way of escaping from a predator. So you find weight for weight, size for size, birds age much more slowly than other animals that are comparable weight to. And that's why we had that paradox earlier, that even though birds have a very high metabolic rate, they don't age very quickly. And the same applies to bats, birds. Anything like that has got an escape mechanism. Low predation will age slowly.
Sorry, does that mean even for animals of roughly the same mass, yes, the ones which are not predated will age slower? So
yes, that's right.
A lion versus a zebra or something like that.
It's more than just predation. It's death by. I mean, generally speaking, yes, I think carnivores do live longer than herbivores. But even it's not just predation. I should say it's death by any means. Now, hunting itself is quite a risky strategy. If a carnivore was injured while it's hunting, they generally starve to death after that. So they have to be quite careful. But generally, yes, I think you find herbivores live longer, live less long than carnivores. This is the equation. The R strategy I mentioned here refers to the rate of growth in this equation. If that term had vanished, you would get exponential growth here. So that's what happens when you have a species that's in a new environment, or it's in an environment which can support a much greater capacity than is currently utilised. That's what the K refers to. So if that vanishes, you get exponential growth until you run up against the boundaries of the system. And this is a cave strategy animal. So these creatures reproduce very slowly, and they age very slowly. Typically just have one offspring at a time. And this is an R strategy animal. So they reproduce like crazy. These are actually opossums. In this case, they seem to be adopted by a human. So that's why we age. So basically, we do understand why we age. From an evolutionary point of view, it makes complete sense. Now we look at how we age, and there it's not so clear at all. basically almost every gerontologist has come up with a theory about how we age. And there are loads and loads of theories. This is just a quick, almost a random selection that I pulled together last night. I think there are many more than these even. Have a look at some of these. So how we age, telomeres, this is a very popular theory. Every time a cell divides, the ends of the chromosomes get chopped off. There are long repeating units at the end of each chromosome. They get shortened each time a cell divides. Eventually, we run out of telomeres and the cell can't divide anymore. And people think, wow, that must be aging. But unfortunately, rodents regenerate their telomeres, and yet they age. So, as far as I'm concerned, the theory has got zero credibility, and yet people carry on believing it. I think it's much more likely that our telomeres shorten because we live much longer. So, we're larger than rodents, and we live longer, so therefore the individual risk of cancer is much, much higher on a whole body level, because we've got more cells and the cells live longer. I can't remember the exact calculation, but I think it's something like 10,000 or 100,000 times the cells need additional protection in a human versus, say, a rodent, by a massive factor, and I think that's what the telomeres are doing. The telomeres are protecting us against cancer more than the rodents, because the rodents don't need that protection. So they're able to regenerate the telomeres, but we aren't. If we try to regenerate our telomeres, we'd probably just burst out in cancers all over and die. Here's another theory, free radicals, or oxidation. This is also quite a popular theory. First proposed in 1956. Basically, the free radicals are mostly produced in the mitochondria when we burn carbohydrate. Free radicals are just molecules with unpaired electrons, and they cross-link to other molecules almost at random, and that's quite destructive. They sort of membrane stiffen, collagen gets stiff. If it binds to DNA, you get damage there. It's a very popular model, and I think because it's like a good guys versus bad guys, sort of things that might, sort of theory that would appeal to George Bush, I imagine. The antioxidants are the good guys, and they mop up the free radicals, the bad guys. But there's almost no evidence for it. Vitamin E, which is a pure antioxidant vitamin, the only pure antioxidant vitamin there is, doesn't extend lifespan. And there are other things, BHT, also doesn't extend lifespan, and especially if you combine them together, it actually shortens the lives of animals. So I don't think the free radical theory has much going for it. It obviously plays a role somewhere, but it can't be the driving force for aging. This is the mitochondria. Krebs cycle, where we burn everything, occurs inside the matrix. Free radicals are produced. So this links with the mitochondrial theory of aging. It basically says the mitochondria is the source of all evil. And this is the Krebs cycle that goes on in there. Another theory is that it's caused by free glucose. Glucose itself has a tendency to react with other molecules, a bit like a free radical, and it causes the same sort of damage. And the evidence for that is that diabetics age more quickly than normal people do. And basically, a diabetic is someone who can't control their glucose levels in the blood. The insulin feedback system doesn't quite work properly. You find they go blind early, their skin ages more quickly, they develop cancer more likely, they develop cardiovascular disease. Basically, they show all the signs of early aging. And of course, we need glucose to live, so we can't get around that. But we can control the different sorts of diabetes to some extent. Another theory used to be about the thymus gland. The thymus gland is the master gland for immunity, produces killer T cells, and it decreases in size quite dramatically from birth. Increases in absolute size from birth to puberty, but relative size goes down, and then after puberty, the absolute size goes down as well. You see it there, it drops from 35 grams down to 5 grams. So in an old person, basically, you just almost can't see the thymus at all, and the 5 grams is not very much. And people always regarded this as irreversible. So here are the pictures. This is the one on the left is some Gray's anatomy. So this is the thymus here. It's inside a chest cavity, quite enormous.